Welcome, everyone. It is December 19th, year of our Lord 2025. This is the Zooch and Wilde podcast, and this is the pre-first round of 2025 show. We got game tonight. We got 3 games tomorrow. I'm so excited. The playoffs are here, Zooch. Well, what can we say? Like all of the entire year led up to this, we had some iffy brackets in the preseason. Some awesome games this year, some awesome memes this year. But now it's when it gets serious, man. Like this is when this is going to be awesome. And despite 2 group of 5 teams playing, I'm really excited about these games. And I think part of like we're going to get into all the games. We're going to get into our championship predictions afterwards, a little bit of transfer portal stuff too. But I'm really stoked for these games. I personally am stoked, just not only in terms of how they win, but how certain teams look, how certain players look. I don't know where you're at, but like maybe as an Ole Miss fan, you have a little bit more stress than I do going into this. But
The
I'm
stress
I'm
started hitting
excited.
last night when I was on my way home from work. I just started getting like a pit in my stomach. Like, oh my god, what if they lose to a team they defeat 45-10, like 2 months ago or whatever? It was like week 4, I think that game was. So really not that long ago.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good like you have the. It's interesting because you have so many teams. Like if you look at it, JMU's head coach is gone, but he's still there. Same thing with Tulane. Ole Miss's head coach is just gone, and you have the whole weird thing of like the staff, like some of the staff members coming back that are going to LSU, mixed with the new staff members who they've hired pretty much all the new staff. I think they still need like a tight ends coach and a defensive assistant. But you also have Oregon, both coordinators are gone. So I don't know how much that's going to play into this weekend per se, specifically for the JMU and Tulane, because I think most people think they're going to lose. But with Oregon and Ole Miss, A&M too, because Colin Klein is gone, and I think their DC is gone too. A&M has 2 I think their DC is gone. That's going to be real interesting in the second round because those games aren't until the 31st and 1st, and the transfer portal opens on the 2nd. So I don't know how you balance both of those because you're already balancing a lot, doing just one of them, and to be balancing obviously I'm not as. I know a lot of people think like with the Ole Miss one specifically, like what if they're there to sabotage? I don't think that's a thing. Like I can't imagine you're 4 games from winning a national championship in a sport that's extremely probably the hardest to win a national championship in, and you would sabotage your. I don't see that being a thing, but I do think it can get messy trying to balance new job and current job. And that's not just an Ole Miss thing. That's like I said, specifically for the Ole Miss guys for the most part, or really all of them, are all still assistants going to LSU. Oregon, those guys are both going to be head coaches at different places. Same thing for A&M. I don't remember where their DC went. I know Colin Klein is going to Kansas State to be a head coach. And Brian Hartline at Ohio State. He's gone too. So I think that's no one from Indiana's done anything. Georgia,
Texas Tech. Texas A&M's DC is going to Kentucky
to be
for
the
the same to be
DC,
the
right?
defensive coordinator. Huh?
That's an interesting kind of
Money
move.
thing?
I mean, shit.
Closer to
Pete Golding went from Alabama to Ole Miss, so maybe it's probably trying to prove yourself outside of Mike Elko type deal. So
yeah.
I mean, it's people say it's like you're moving down, but you're moving down to move up is what that kind of sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of interesting storylines with this. I mean, even this first weekend, I think the Alabama-Oklahoma game is super interesting
That's the
because
game I
you've
wanted
got
to.
I think with you are going to have an angry fan base with whoever loses that. They're not going to be happy that they just made the playoffs, and I think a lot of it is going to have to do with how both teams have looked at points. Like obviously, you had Alabama in the FSU game that they just looked horrible. Like people were like thinking DeBoer was going to get fired like the next week. The Georgia game, they did have a lot of guys hurt, and that one was sort of weird because I think they felt pretty comfortable. I know it became a thing like, oh, will Alabama get in? I, for one, I don't think you did either, ever thought that Alabama was going to get dropped out of the playoff for losing that game. But for the last, they lost that FSU game, then looked really good. And for the last month or so, they've been kind of squeaking by, right? Like they barely got by Auburn. They barely got by South Carolina, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, South Carolina. The LSU game wasn't great. The Georgia game, they looked horrible. So, and then Oklahoma, on the other hand, you just that offense has looked so and like just bad. Like there's no other way to describe. I mean, even when they played Ole Miss, like watching that game, Oklahoma had like two busted plays that they scored on, and other than that, they didn't. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they just haven't looked good offensively. And I think that if they go into this game tomorrow, because it was what like if you look at the box score of that
Yeah. I got it
first
pulled up
Alabama
there.
game,
I got it pulled up right now, Zooch, and I mean, obviously, Oklahoma won the game, 23-21. However, I mean, Alabama, they, I'm looking at this. It was tied in the fourth quarter. It was or Alabama was up one going in the fourth quarter, but passing yards, we have over 300 for Alabama to Mateer's 138. Total rushing yards is 74 to Alabama's 80. It's just crazy. But I mean, you look at this: two lost fumbles from Alabama. Um, that's really what happens. There's just two lost. But then Oklahoma had an interception. I don't know how the hell Alabama lost this game.
it was
Now
the
that I'm looking at
turnovers. I mean, because one of those was a picks. Hold on, let me. I want to look real quick and see, so I'm not sounding like an idiot.
Alabama had a missed
Yeah,
field goal too.
87-yard
That could be it.
interception return for a touchdown. That was, I mean, that was the difference in the game because that's at least a 10-point swing right there.
Hmm.
I mean, you could make a huge argument that it was a 14-point swing. You're 13 yards from scoring, and at that point it was I think it was 3 yeah, 3-0. So instead of it being 7-3, it's 10-0 Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that defense is good enough to if they build a 10-point lead, it's going to be hard to come back and win. I'm picking Alabama in this game, and it's because I don't think that Oklahoma off. I know they've had 3 weeks, and I do think, and this is an argument I've had with Cody because he has blamed what is that OC's name?
I don't know, but I see it in group chats all the time. Grant, and it's not Grant. It's something really funny. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna find it. Oklahoma
I
OC.
know,
Something. It's a very. Oh my gosh, Arbuckle, Ben Arbuckle.
yeah, Ben Arbuckle. And I think he is really really good. I think Mateer has been bad, and they also have they have no. We've talked about it all season long. Their running game is
I mean,
horrible.
it's been the easiest like low hanging fruit all year is just like the Oklahoma run game on this show. Um, I I go back and forth on this game, man. I do see the cons to Oklahoma. The offense is so hit or miss. They do rely on these big plays. They have been carried by their defense. But Mateer, when he's playing well, is still one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And Alabama, I can't tell what it is. It's just sometimes they just do you feel like something's missing? Like it's an
Yeah,
intangible. And I don't know, like, do you think that's a drive thing? Do you think that's a playing tight thing? Because like I can't quantify it in stats. I quantify it by I've watched a decent amount of Alabama football this year for not being an Alabama fan, because they're just always on. And sometimes I'm just like, man, they are almost there. Like, even with like an Ole Miss or Georgia or even a team that I think is a little overrated, Texas A&M, it's like, wow, that's a team that's playing their best version of football. I don't think I've rarely seen Alabama play what I think is their best version of football. Maybe I missed a couple games. But like every loss they've had, it's been them being like, man, they kind of shat the bed. It wasn't like oh man, you just lost a barn burner. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you've watched the games and you felt like you said, they're just like missing something because it'll be like it doesn't even like, and they've had their struggles in the running game too. And Simpson has had a couple games where he's just been. It just seems like they haven't been able to put it all. Like if they did put it all together, I think they would probably be 11-1, or sorry, 12-1 or 13-0. I really do think that they are definitely better than Florida State, and I think they're better than Alabama. Georgia, they split against, and that's their 3 losses right there. Like they won every other game. They and I understand that they like Tennessee wasn't that great this year. South Carolina was bad. LSU was bad. But still, like I think that team could definitely be 10-2 because they're 10-3 right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, 10-3. So I think it could be 11-2 and maybe even 12-1 if they could put it all together. But you also wonder that it's not October; it's the end of December. If they haven't put it together by now, what would make you think
That's the
outside
thing.
of having the 2 or 3 weeks to prepare that they could put it together now?
That's why, like, I think, and I think the odds makers have like this thought too, because I think Alabama is only a 1.5 point favorite right now. I'm gonna lead. It's just so tough because I do think they have an advantage in the run game. They have an advantage even at quarterback. I think Simpson's better than uh Mateer, even though I'm high on Mateer. I How I see this game going is I think this is going to be a really close game. I think unlike some of the playoff games we had last year, last year I think people fooled themselves into thinking these teams were evenly matched. Like Clemson was not up to Texas's speed. SMU was not up to Penn State's. Tennessee was not up to Ohio State's. So this year, this is going to be about as even as it gets. I have this as the most even game of the whole entire weekend. Like I might see a scenario where Alabama wins and like Oklahoma covers, like covers a 1 point spread. Like that's how close I think it's going to be. Honestly, it's a toss up for me. I had Oklahoma when I first was thinking about this game, and you know what? Screw it. Let's have some fun. I'm going to go Oklahoma. I think this game goes how Alabama's losses have gone in the past, where a timely turnover, maybe a Mateer crazy play gets them a 24 to or 28 to like 25 victory or 20 or 31 to 28 victory.
And I think that's a good point because I do think, and I was talking with Cody about this today, I do think Oklahoma is going to have to score in the mid-20s to win this game. Because if you look, and I understand their defense has been great. I mean, they've allowed over 30 points once, and that was to Ole Miss. Other than that, they have not allowed over 30 points, which is, I mean, by and large, especially considering what their schedule, at least what their schedule looked like on paper going in, that's incredible to not once allow over 30 points. But if you do look at the box score of that Alabama game, they did give up, what was it, like 450 yards? Alabama's going to probably, unless the offense just looks like it did against Georgia, probably going to get 21 to 28 points, like you said. So I think if Oklahoma wins, their offense is going to have to, like, they're not going to score 17 and win this game. I just don't see that happening. Could be wrong. Maybe they come out and just have an answer for everything Alabama tries offensively, but I don't see it. So I agree with you on that. The score-wise, if Oklahoma wins, that's what it's going to have to be.
Fair enough. No, looks like we are both choosing opposites for the first game. But let's move on to the first Saturday game, Zooch. I know a lot of A&M fans are upset that they got it at noon. I kind of like this game at noon. I think it's going to set a great tone for the rest of the day. We got Miami versus Texas A&M in Kyle Field. That place is going to be rocking. I go back and forth on this one too, man. Let me get the spread. I got it in my notes real quick. But Mario Cristobal finally, there's a big controversy of everyone knows him getting the playoff over Notre Dame, which I think they should have. The games have to matter. We talked about it last week. But this is going to be really, really close, man. I don't know. I can't believe I forget. Didn't write the spread down. I just said that I think
It
Miami
is. I'll pull it up
wasn't going
for
to
you real
cover
quick
it.
because I got the
But
bracket in front of
I
me.
like. I really,
Three and a
really do
half
like.
A&M.
I
A&M's
like
3.5 going favorite.
as an A&M hater. I think A&M is going to play really, really well in this game. I think this sets up so well for Texas A&M. Like noon game, Kyle Field, like Miami. The thing is though, like I say that, and now that I'm like talking it out loud, it doesn't sound right. Like I like when Miami is playing well, they look like a top 5 team.
Mm-hmm.
They just look like they've almost like coasted this whole year, if that makes sense. Like they won those
Yeah.
first 2 big ones, and then they put it almost like load management mode the entire time. I think they're gonna try to do the load management thing or whatever, come out lethargic, and I do think Texas A&M losing to Texas is the best thing that could have happened to them because they're gonna come out, they're gonna be like, "Holy shit! Like we got to fix some things." I don't think Miami's even as good as Texas is, so I have Texas A&M in this Zooch. But again, I think it's gonna be really close because if Beck gets going, oh my gosh, who's that freshman receiver that Miami has? That's really really good.
They made that insane catch against Notre Dame.
Yeah, no, he's been playing well all year. He's been their best receiver, and the line play for Miami can hold him up. But like, it's the same Miami team that lost to friggin' Louisville. Like I mean, like, you know what I mean?
So this was this was a difficult one too. So I'm glad we did the two. Well, probably both of us think are the more difficult ones because I agree with you on Miami coasting. However, I look at A&M and I think the difference in this game is going to be defense. And I look at A&M, they gave up. They got, and I mean, still 11-1, so you can't. It's not all luck. Got a little bit lucky in that Notre Dame game with the botched BAT, the hold at the end.
Yep.
We're getting crushed by South Carolina, and ended up pulling that one out. So I look at and I was doing some studying on A&M, and they've given up. They gave up 40 to Notre Dame, 30 to South Carolina, and 27 to 25 to LSU, which that game was a blowout. 42 to Arkansas. They've had
Man,
some games where their defense has kind of gotten picked apart. And I was going to pick them in this game until I started thinking more about the Miami defense and what Texas did to that A&M offensive line. And I think Ruben Bain might have a
yeah,
field day against A&M. And I think these two teams are similar, and like you said, the kind of coasting thing, because you look at A&M's schedule and you're like, oh, okay, like the Notre Dame is by far their best win, right? Like other than that, like LSU was ranked when they beat them. We know what happened there. Missouri is all right. And then outside of that, like Florida bad, Arkansas bad, Mississippi State bad, Auburn, and they kind of coasted in that game. They won that game 16-10. But that kind of plays more to my point about the Miami defense being extremely good. And I even look at the Miami Notre Dame game, and I understand it was the first game of the year, and Notre Dame's offense got better. But that Notre Dame offense was just putting up 40 spots every game but that Miami game. So that's why I'm leaning Miami as I think the defense is going to be able to hold Texas A&M down, and I think that A&M defense has struggled versus the decent competition they've played, and even Texas's offense has been bad for most of the year. I think this one will be close too. Like it's you could convince me in this game or that OU Alabama game that who I'm not picking to win is gonna win, and I would buy it. There's not like a thought in me that's like, oh, there's no way that you know A&M wins, or there's no way that Oklahoma wins.
Yeah,
I just think that both those teams
this
have
is
to do something really special to win.
it's brutal to me too with this pick because I'm like I think I'm gonna still roll with Texas A&M, but it's like Carson Beck is the Texas A&M of quarterbacks. You know, like it's kind of like yeah, man, he's really good. It's everything about him should scream like first round pick. Everything about Texas A&M should be like, why isn't Texas A&M playing for a national title every single year? But there's like something off. He's a little weird, questionable traditions on both sides. In terms of genitalia or talking about such. So yeah, did I just pull a Colin Cowherd right there? I think we should put that on a quote card. Is Carson Beck the Texas A&M of quarterbacks?
He did. Speaking of him, I saw a video where like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I want to say it was uh, Bo Nix he was talking about like being horrible, and then like this last like Friday he was talking about how like Bo Nix is like the best quarterback, and not exactly that. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it was the typical like Cowherd, all those guys, not just a Cowherd thing, but you know how like the big guys in sports media like they take it to the next level and like what they're saying, and then like 3 weeks later have to like go a complete 180. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about both of these games. Like, real excited to see. I mean, like, and I honestly think really any of these four teams could like could win the
Yeah,
national championship.
they
That's like
could.
part of it too. Like I look at them, I'm like, Miami when they're playing really good is going to be extremely hard to beat. Same thing with Bama. If that OU defense, like that defense can help them beat anyone in the country. Like seriously, they can. So we're gonna see. It's an exciting time.
All right, we are moving on to what is going to be the most stressful 3 hours for you on Saturday, the second game, Ole Miss Tulane. I think the real story is what's in the headsets. 'Cause you got Pete Golding, who just got in, and you got Summerall, who's on his way out. Like Georgia is allowing, Florida is allowing him to coach. Um, I think, and I don't know if you consider this a bold prediction, and I don't want to get ahead of myself on the next game. I truly think either Tulane or JMU is going to cover,
Oh, I absolutely think
and
that.
I think my heart wants to tell me JMU because I'm like, oh, it's the night game. It'll be the one everyone's watching. Everyone's shitting on. Like, no one's really shitting on Tulane as much, I think, because it's like, yeah, I guess they were the automatic like any year. People are more so shitting on JMU. I think Summerall comes out as like a boys, like, I love you all, man. Like, let's play. Because like Tulane, it seems like it's a pretty, at least from an outsider, it seems like a pretty seamless. And I do think, we're going to talk about coasting again. I could totally see a scenario where like Ole Miss just kind of keeps it like a 14-point game the whole way, but then Tulane gets like a couple like a bullshit touchdown before the half, and you're like, how the fuck is this a 13-point game right now? Like one of
Yeah,
those deals.
it's a typical Ole Miss game
Yeah,
where they're like have 180 more yards, and you're like, okay, why is this 17-13?
very. I can see this going very similarly to the Mississippi State game. And you mean in the Mississippi State game, obviously they poured on late. I can see a scenario where they don't pour as much on late. I do have
Yeah,
Ole Miss winning. I like Retzlaff a lot at Tulane, but I think Chambliss, Lacey, the guys at Ole Miss, and like you said, I think they have enough continuity in their staff, and that they're going to allow their play caller to keep calling plays, so the continuity is still there. And it does feel like what came out about like the players and Kiffin, and they were like Kiffin said something, and like the players were like, he never said that in the meeting. I don't feel the animosity. Like a lot of the players, I think their animosity is not towards the returning staff members, more so like Kiffin was lying.
yeah.
So I don't think
Well,
they're
yeah, and they were put
faulting.
in a
Yeah.
they were kind of put in a note. I mean, if it's true that he told them either get on this plane or I'm not gonna hire you, which doesn't seem to be a. I don't doubt that he said that, but I do doubt that he 100% meant it because it sounds like Kevin Smith, who's their running backs coach, is going to go to, especially now that they just hired the LSU intern. I cannot think of his name right now, but I do know he's a great recruiter, which is fantastic. That's what you want on your staff is good recruiters and guys who can coach. But like we've talked about it before, the assistants and these position coaches mean a lot more to these guys than the head coach. So I don't. Long story short, I don't think he 100% meant it. But if he did say that, you're in kind of a no-win situation. It's like, well, like hell, I don't know if Pete Golding's going to keep me for sure. But I do know that Lane Kiffin has asked me to get on this flight and go and coach it. Like, you have a job if you get on the flight. So, not saying they made like the right choice, but it wasn't you know, it wasn't black and white either. The choice, like, there's a lot of gray in that choice. And yeah, like I like Retzlaff too. I think in that first game, if I remember, because I was in a buddy's wedding that day, so it was kind of hit and miss being able to watch it because you're taking photos, all that kind of shit. He was like 3 of 13 passing at one point. They couldn't get the passing game going. They did have a couple of big runs, and it was hard to tell if that was more so Ole Miss and Pete Golding being like, yeah, we'll let them have these bigger runs and we'll just take away the pass because they're not gonna, they don't have the athletes to beat us in the trenches, right? So I do think it'll be closer. I do think though, I'm trying to think. Like the only one I can think of that someone got absolutely smacked and came back and won the next game was the Alabama Georgia when Georgia won their first title under Smart when they got like killed in the SEC championship, came back and won. But as we all know, like Alabama, like a ton of guys got hurt for Alabama in that game too. I mean, obviously that had a little bit to do with the outcome because Bryce Young was like throwing to like the fourth string by the end of that game. And I think there's been a couple bowl games where it's happened where someone's gotten like killed the first. I think Washington was in one year where they killed somebody or they got killed and then won the rematch, something like that. But it's very rare. Granted, it's very rare that I guess it's not too rare. I mean, we saw it this year at Boise State, and I think it might be a lot like that game, right? Like the Boise State UNLV game where the first one, Boise State wins by 25. They played again the other night, and Boise State was in control, but there was a certain point in time where it felt like UNLV had some momentum and could win the game, but you never thought UNLV was better than Boise State, if that makes sense.
No, that's totally true. I really agree with that analogy. We will see. And as just like a general football fan, sorry to Zooch and Ole Miss fans. I'm rooting for Tulane to keep it in single
I get
digits.
it.
I won't go full root Tulane for you and the SIP and the people in the state of Mississippi. But I would like Tulane to keep it close, to save the sport from idiots on talk shows like Get Up and the network that will not be named that I do not watch anymore. This is a big week for idiot comments. I'll say that. Big week for idiot comments on
And
all
if some of it by
networks.
people we both I know I do, and I'm pretty sure you've mentioned to me before that how much you like Joe Klatt.
I do.
Joe.
That's the dumbest comment he's ever made in his life.
He went about that because I think he was trying to say something similar to what we said last week, which was like, what makes the NCAA tournament good? It's not necessarily most of the games are not good, and that is just like that's factual. You can look at it and be like, all right, maybe if I get time over the off season, I'll look at it and be like, hey, what do we say it was 32 games the first 2 days, 22 of them were like double digit
Yeah.
wins or whatever. I don't know the exact stats, but him saying it's the worst tournament in all of sports was not the
And
way to
also,
go.
no one wants to see the little guy. That was the one where I was like, dude, there's a reason why like the tournament is expanding to more teams because they want more of it. I don't know. It's beyond me. And also
The
the
NCAA
idiots
tournament is
do
the
all the
only thing that for literally for years, like we're going to be like in our 40s one day, and it'll be like, hey, you remember when freaking Spencer Golke like couldn't miss a three against
Yeah, you remember when
Kentucky? Like
Boise
you were
State lost to Boo Booey?
like it's the only tournament in sports that you're like, oh yeah, like, and there's little thing like there's other stuff that like for example, what's his face from the Dodgers this year, the second baseman who hit the home run and then had that incredible play to like uh, prevent the Blue Jays from winning, Miguel Rojas. Like baseball fans will remember that. Like and like I think people were watching that game, right? Like because it was game 7 of the World Series and the Dodgers are in it, and despite all the people who always want to say baseball is dying, like playoff baseball is still fucking huge. I don't care. Like, yeah, maybe like people aren't going to
I
a
think baseball is
June.
just regional now. It's not dying. It's just it's so regionalized within the
Yeah,
the teams. But
exactly. And but like no, the tournament is the only thing that you can like be like, oh, remember the Florida Gulf Coast run? Remember the Wichita State? Like, I still remember guys on that Wichita State roster because it was in like, I was at the game when they beat Gonzaga, and Gonzaga was a one, and like, I kind of felt bad because one of my good friends was there with me, and he's a huge Gonzaga fan. But you're cheering for, you're like, hell yeah, I want to see that, whatever they were, an 8 or 9. You're like, yeah, I want to see them beat. It's not like an anti Gonzaga thing. It's I want to see the 1 seed like lose this game because it is exciting. So he was terribly wrong on those takes.
yeah, is what it is. No, but I'm looking forward to this game. Ole Miss Tulane. We'll see if they keep it close. They could have not. And now we're gonna go to the last game, the game that I think is the reason why most of the country is upset right now. The JMU Dukies playing the Oregon Duckies out in Autzen. Night game, although it really won't be nighttime in Oregon. It'll be 4:30. But I'm excited for this game. Zooch, I looked up some JMU stats because full honesty, maybe watched 15 minutes of James Madison football this year. I tried to catch a little bit more of their conference championship because I was like, I better watch a little bit. And they look like a solid team. Did they look like a group of 5 team that in years past they'd get like the invite to the Cotton Bowl, you know what I mean? And play like a really good team. I'm looking at these stats. Did you know James Madison is second in the nation in rushing attack and second in total defense? That
Their defense is. As I was listening to
those are pretty good stats. I thought they were going to get killed. Now I'm starting to think like, can they cover? Because I do think Oregon's going to win. I think Dante Moore. I think that defense is very sneaky. I just think with the loss of coordinators, there's a chance for it to get a little sloppy, and James Madison playing probably the biggest chip on their shoulder in the entire country, bigger than Tulane, in my opinion.
so I'll ask you this about, because we've talked before about how people on both sides of the people who are super pro G5 and the people who are super anti G5 only talk about the things that benefit them, right? Like the pro G5 will bring up Boise State, Oklahoma, Tulane, USC a couple years ago, Utah, Alabama, about 15 years ago, whenever that Sugar Bowl. They'll bring up those, right? But they don't bring up when Oregon killed Liberty, when Georgia. I remember watching that Georgia, and I was freaking loved Colt Brennan. I thought like that was like prime. You're like a kid, and you think,
Yep.
all right, this Hawaii team is like bad. Like
Yep.
they're Hawaii, and like their jerseys are cool, and like they were just cool. And you're like, you're
Fucking
getting all
wax.
excited, and like you're like, okay, yeah, they like 2 drives in. You're like, yeah, they have no chance whatsoever. This Georgia team, it literally looks like varsity versus JV. Was it Wisconsin who beat Western Michigan?
Yeah.
Penn
Wisconsin
State
and
beat, who did Penn State beat?
Memphis.
Memphis.
But then people forget
All of those,
Houston. Houston beat someone like their year, it's been pretty 50-50.
Yeah, and like usually it's close if the G5 team does win, right? Like it's like at the end, like Boise State, Oklahoma was at the end of the game. Really, the only one I can think of off the top of my head that they just beat their ass was Utah when they beat Alabama, and that was like 24-0. And I was like, "What the hell is?" Like, I did not expect that because, like, I know Boise State had beaten Oklahoma, but I was like, "Well, shit, Georgia just beat the shit out of Hawaii a couple." Like, I thought it was going to go more along the lines of that Georgia Hawaii game. So, do you with these two games? What do you think is more likely, I guess, that either Tulane or JMU win or that Ole Miss and Oregon cover?
Shoot, honestly, it's the cover. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think because like you said, I think it's one of those deals where you can keep it close for a while, almost like the Boise State Penn State game last year, where anyone who watched that whole game was kind of like, Penn State kind of fucked up a couple times, and like you're just like,
Yeah.
man, if Boise State like a couple things go their way, like it goes differently. But you look at the box score at the end, it's like, ah, shit, they lost by what was it, 2 touchdowns or like
Yeah, and
a
I
little
think
over
we
two
missed
touchdowns.
2 or 3 I
Yeah,
I'm gonna air out everything. I got absolutely plastered before that game and fell asleep like 15 minutes before it started and woke up to Penn State's band playing. But then I was locked in. It was just I had worked a whole previous day, had a flight at 5 in the morning, got in, and we immediately started drinking Pink Whitney. So
with
that's how
with
bowl
friend
games go
with
sometimes.
friend of the program, either Optimus Troy or Positive Troy, depending on the game. Legendary quote by Troy. Zooch, do you want to say what the legendary quote was? All time quote by friend of the program, Troy.
Was it when he? What was it? He said like,
He
"Got it."
declared.
I
He,
yeah,
he
declared
declared
that we had to score on the drive.
the second drive of the game, declared it a must score. He was right though. He was right.
He was, but yeah, like, and we're joking around now, but usually that's how those games go. Is like, and that's because of the talent gap. Like there is the G5 people, and we're G5 people. Like we really are. We will admit though that there is a big talent gap in between
Yeah.
Ole Miss and Tulane, and or they're just no one who's being serious wouldn't say that. That doesn't mean that one of those two teams can't win, and I wouldn't be like completely astounded if one of those teams win. But I think the difference you've seen with like the guys that have won, like I look at the Boise State Oklahoma one is the one that was like, okay, there wasn't really a ton of guys on that Boise State team. You had Ryan Clady and I cannot Kyle Wilson, who both went to the NFL. You look at like the Hawaii Bama one, there is no one from that Hawaii team that I can remember being in the NFL. uh Utah, Alabama, I don't really remember many Utah people being in it, but Brian Johnson is like at one point was the Eagles offensive coordinator, and that game was in like 2009 or 2010, I think. Kellen Moore obviously is a effing NFL head
Yeah.
coach,
No,
and
you know,
like and those Boise State teams also, what people don't realize, the ones with Kellen Moore had a lot of NFL. Like
well,
they really did have a
even
lot
the
of
Boise
NFL
State
talent.
team, like last year, there's a chance that the Boise State's running back, left tackle, depending on how where Louder goes in the draft, there's a chance that like 6 or 7. I can't believe I just did that, but 6 or 7 Boise State players from last year's team play in the NFL, which would think would be like high for a Group of Five team. Like if
Yeah,
Benefield goes well, Cage Casey, Hassanin, Genty, shoot, if you even want to go to like Gaines and Riley, like there's a chance that like they get like 8 guys from that team playing in the NFL. Like,
right.
and like I said, I haven't watched a lot of Tulane, haven't watched a lot of James Madison. Maybe Retzlaff is like a journeyman, but like I need a Tulane fan or a JMU fan to be like, who is the guy? What about the guy that does like the clown makeup for JMU? That there's gonna be a lot of people who don't watch football that are gonna see that. I pray to God JMU's not down like 4 touchdowns when they show that guy. Because if JMU's down
Well,
4 touchdowns and people see a guy in clown makeup, and a purple uniform, the G5 might die. And I don't want that to
Yeah,
happen.
and,
I
and like I said,
really
that's
need one of these teams to keep it close.
and that's kind of why I agree with you on the spread thing. Is like I just don't know that either of these two. Like the reason people like kind of gave BSU a chance, like they were unhappy that BSU got the 3 seed, which is somewhat fair. The reason they gave BSU a chance was because Ashton Genty was the best running back you had seen literally since Reggie Bush. And I understand like Eddie Lacy and Derrick
Yeah.
Henry, and there had been other good guys, but it was, and we called it, by the way, like his sophomore year when we said this guy Genty, we're like, he's going to be like a day 2 pick. Like and
Yeah.
we were even wrong then. Like
Dude, we
he
also
was
called the Penn
insane.
State game when we were like, Penn State, there is going to be a screenshot where Penn State lines up in a 10-man front.
And they did. They were like, okay, like obviously, like these guys struggle to throw the ball. Like it was 7. We had 14, and one of the touchdowns was a broken play to
Yeah.
Matt Wilder because
Yeah.
I remember being in the arena, being like, he's wide fucking open, throw it to him. Like literally. Speaking of wide open, I've never seen someone that wide open, and you were there in person as that Washington receiver. That's literally what it looked like.
No, I
Just
wasn't there
no
for
one
the
even
Washington
around him.
game. I wasn't there for the
That's what I'm
Washington game.
saying. Is like that. I've never seen someone that wide open in a football game in my entire life.
Oh,
Like he
the
threw the
LA Bowl.
ball.
Oh,
Yeah,
I already forgot about that. I had a meltdown. I was making the Boise State fans with young kids uncomfortable. I did not say a curse word the whole time. I might as well have been dropping F-bombs. I was probably the most pessimistic person on the planet. There's the sweet mother from Orange County who sat next to me. One of her kids was from Washington. One of her kids was from Boise. They went up and got popcorn, and I just turned to them and I turned to the kid and I go, "Tough night, huh?" And he just started laughing. And then the daughter's like, "Not a tough night for me." And I'm like, "Well, I'm having a terrible night right now in
well,
front of
I will
7
say, even
people in the
Optimus
LA
Troy
Bowl."
went into that game with no faith, and it was the day of him and his wife's baby shower. But yeah, back to our original topic. That's what I see the difference being is I just don't. And granted, I've watched more of Tulane than I did JMU, and a lot of the Tulane thing was like because it's usually like the American the American conference teams that are the biggest threat to BSU for that G5 playoff berth. And you just don't see a lot like JMU you don't see on TV a lot. You know, they're the Sun Belt and the MAC and Conference USA, you just don't they don't even get the love that really Boise State and the American gets quite a bit of love. But that's because, Navy's usually pretty good. Memphis has been good. Tulane's been good. The American has some decent teams in it. But we're gonna see, never say never. Like all it takes is a couple things going your way. And, I think it's important for both of those teams to somehow build like a 10-point lead. Because that's another thing that and I know you've realized this too watching Boise State. And those games that BSU has won versus, the Oklahomas, Arizonas, Oregon when they had Herbert, they built a 2 or 3 score lead, and usually the other team got back in it.
Yep.
It's never, 3-3 at the end of the first quarter, and as a BSU fan, I'm like, oh, I feel good about
Yep.
how this is going. You want that touchdown and then maybe a turnover, and you're like,
Touchdown,
oh
stop, field
sweet,
goal. You want the touchdown,
right?
stop, field goal, and be like, "Holy shit, we're up 10."
Yeah, and you're like, all right, we got we got a chance here, and we'll see. I think people would maybe feel differently about Tulane if they hadn't gotten beaten so bad earlier in the year, but that's why you play the game. So who
Gotta play
knows?
the games. So we are not going to be doing a show next week because of Christmas, and still TBD on our New Year's show. So we are going to give our bracket predictions now for the college football playoff. We'll be choosing our 4 final teams, what we think the championship's going to be, and what we think the national champion will be right now. So I will go first. I'm going to be very, very boring in my picks. I think Indiana handles Oklahoma. I think Texas Tech beats Oregon. I think Georgia beats Ole Miss, and I think Ohio State will beat A&M. And I think those games will be pretty handily. So I have the top 4 teams as my 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
I then think Texas Tech throws an absolute missile punch to Indiana. Like Texas Tech, like firing on all cylinders. And we've watched a lot of Tech this year. I know you've watched a lot of Tech this year because it was the dark horse pick of the century before the year for the people in the know. I mean, people in the South and Texas knew about Texas Tech. I don't think a lot of people in the North and where we are knew a lot about Texas Tech. And then I think Georgia just handles business versus Ohio State. I think Ohio State has another farter. Like I think you see a Ryan Day game again. We get another Ryan Day face shot, and you already know it's going to be him wincing or looking stupid or
It's
looking
so mean.
confused.
I was texting you before that Indiana game. I was like, I am willing and able. I am ready for the Ryan Day face shot. And when
And it was
that
there.
or Ohio State kid missed that field goal to like tie it or whatever it was late in the game, and I was like, here it comes. They're gonna have him.
But no, I have the national championship as Texas Tech versus Georgia, and I think Georgia wins. I think Texas Tech will have blown their like load the game before. I think they're going to be coming off a high so much they finally made the national championship, and I think this is just a sneaky year for Georgia handling business. And what I like about Georgia is that in close games I trust them most. Like I want Georgia in a close game. Like like Indiana, Texas Tech, those are teams that I think Ohio State teams that are great at blowing teams away, like right off the bat. I want Georgia in the dogfight. Georgia is a team that has
Dude,
proven to me that if they're down 7 with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I'm still not feeling nervous, and that's
no,
why I have
I mean,
Georgia.
hell, look at the Ole Miss and Tennessee games. They were down double digits to Ole Miss going into the fourth, and I want to say, I mean, and granted, like the Tennessee game, that kid missed the field goal, but they were down pretty much all that game. And, like they know how, like Kirby Smart knows how to win, and he doesn't. Like it's funny because you'll see him, and he's obviously very animated and stuff like that, and will get on to people's ass. But if like something big happens, it's like a major mistake. He's not, panicking. He's usually like trying to like cheer him up or motivate him or whatever. And I mean, I completely agree with you. They've been down a few times this year and just have found a way to win in close games. So I don't hate that Georgia pick. I actually almost had them in winning the national championship too, because I think they're going to be a tough out. So you want me to go with mine?
Yeah, let it rip.
Okay. So top of the bracket, I do have Texas Tech beating Oregon. I've been high on them all year. I'm not, and mine's going to be a little different than yours. And I kind of went with what you said at the beginning, like, there's a lot of teams that can win this. So I kind of went with the, I guess you could call it anarchy bracket, but I don't really think it's anarchy because I do think all these teams are really good. There's one on there that is, we'll see. I had Bama beating Oklahoma. I do think Indiana would beat Oklahoma, but I do think Bama is going to beat Indiana. I'm still,
Okay.
like I said, I'm still high on Alabama. So I have Texas Tech and Bama. Now, with Ole Miss, Georgia, I watched that game. I honestly do think the winner of that game is going to beat Ohio State. Something about like those two playing each other. I think they're probably those, specifically Ole Miss, but even Georgia to a certain extent is probably the best offense Ohio State is going to see this year. Like I think definitely Ole Miss is better than Indiana offensively. Like I said, they're the only team who put 30 on Oklahoma, and that Oklahoma defense is fantastic. Georgia has a good offense. The defense is coming around. So with that Ole Miss Georgia game, Ole Miss was up 35-26, I think, going into the fourth quarter, and had like literally if they got a stop on like the 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, they would have had the ball in plus territory. I mean, shoot, maybe they're undefeated right now and not even playing this weekend. They're going to rally around Pete Golding. They got the chip on their shoulder. It's the Sugar Bowl. They're going to somehow sneak past Georgia. Now, here's where I think the biggest upset out of all of these is. I think Miami's going to beat Ohio State.
I can see that. I mean, there's a thought process that Ohio State hasn't played any tough teams. Every tough team they've played has kept it close. I mean, you look at the Michigan game, you look at the Texas game, you look at
Yeah,
even
and that
the
offense has struggled
Indiana game.
versus good defenses. They have like I don't think that's I think
You think Ruben
there's a
Bain's going to
world
make
of
a lot of money during these playoffs? You think he's
I think Ruben Bain could honestly I've watched a lot of his stuff. He is low key could have been a Heisman contender if we didn't have Mr. Pavia and we're the flipping champs where it was down. Which we're not hating on Mendoza. He dropped maybe the greatest. It was up there for contender video of the year. As I don't have the only social media I have is LinkedIn and YouTube to watch Kurt Warner breakdowns. And I had no idea. Speaking of him, that his mom was dealing with all that stuff, and he actually does have a really cool. And I know you've been high on him because he was at Cal, and you're like, hey, this kid is really
almost
good.
beat Miami. He almost beat Miami.
Yeah, you've been spot on, maybe a little early, but spot on with Cam Ward and Mendoza.
And Mateer. We got to find a guy for next year. We got to find a guy for next year. I guess. Yeah.
That would make Texas Tech, Bama, Ole Miss, Miami. I have Bama beating Texas Tech because they're going to be feeling themselves. And unfortunately, I think that might be where the run for Ole Miss ends. I think that they would struggle with those Miami receivers. That defense is nasty, and I think Ole Miss would be able to put up points. I don't know that, I think it might be similar in ways to that Georgia game to where I think Ole Miss would get more stops defensively, but I don't know that Ole Miss would score 35, right? Yeah. I think it'd be similar to the Oklahoma game, but I think Miami would score more than Oklahoma did. So my national championship is Alabama versus Miami.
All right.
With Alabama winning. I don't know why I have this feeling about Alabama because they have really I just think, and it's a hot cold thing, like you said, if we get the Alabama that played for those few weeks after they lost to Florida State, I think they win the national championship.
Dang, so back to back 9 seeds for national championships.
Yeah, and it's
really the lowly Cinderella stories of Ohio State and Alabama at the 9-3
Bama. Kalen DeVore gets it done, but I mean that's what you're gonna with how this thing shakes out, and that's a big thing too. Indiana. That game will be if it's Indiana, Alabama, or Indiana, Oklahoma, whoever it is. Alabama's going to have played this, and I think that's a big thing too. Indiana won't have played a game since December, whatever it was, 3rd. I don't remember the exact date for the Big Ten championship. That is a month-long layoff. Mm-hmm. That is a long time to go without, and not only that, but you have in between it, Christmas and the New Year's and guys coming and going, and it's overall it's just a long layoff, and we've seen that before. Those long layoffs, it does take you a little bit to get back into it because you're not gonna be doing scrimmages and shit. Do you know how bad it would look if you're oh yeah, sorry, Fernando Mendoza blew out his knee. We had a
did you see
scrimmage.
Indiana's one of their starting D linemen blew out his knee celebrating the Big Ten championship. Brutal, man. That's what it is.
Well, that's because Kurt Signetti is a piece of shit.
All-time video. We have had some great videos this year. Like you said, we started in Ireland with the Johnson family fighting each other, and we ended with former Ohio State band member calling Kurt Signetti a piece of shit. Only 3 hours after he called Lucas Oil Stadium a piece of shit, which funny. Like that.
And a new video, and he was a nice guy. I was working for BSU when he was there. Kirby Moore, we got to work on your delivery. For those of you who didn't see that, he literally sounded like JFK did in the Black Ops video game. That's what I thought it was when I first
The new
heard
Mountain
it. But
West. He's excited for the new Mountain.
it's overall, I'm excited, and like I said, we talked about it last week when we did our reaction to the bracket. Oregon Tech, Bama, Indiana, Ole Miss, Georgia, Ohio State, Miami. I really think any of those teams could win the national championship. And I think if Oklahoma's defense was 10 points better than what they have been this whole year, they could win the national championship because that defense is phenomenal.
It's legit. It's legit.
So there's 10 teams I honestly think I would be like, I am not shocked at all that they
we'll see.
won the national championship.
I'm stoked for this weekend, man. Well, we're gonna quickly, lastly, touch on some transfer portal news. A lot of quarterbacks moving around. You have Josh Hoover leaving TCU. You got DJ Lagway leaving Florida. You got Sam Levitt leaving ASU. And I know, Zooch, you wanted to bring up like kind of where you could see a couple of these guys. You got the Cincinnati Sorensby, right? He's transferring out.
And he might be the best. Bo Pribula entered today. So that's another one that.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at two main contenders, I think, for portal guys right now. And I think it's obviously LSU, Texas Tech, and then I think Florida.
Raiola
and Miami. It like I said, if Raiola truly did want to go to Texas Tech, there needs to be a serious conversation. There needs to be a serious conversation. But word on the street is not. I don't know about you. I always find it very interesting because like the quarterback market for NIL and the NIL in general, it truly is what a free market looks like. How many of these guys do you think like are end up getting less money than were getting at their old school? Or do you think like it's so interesting to see the guys who are transferring out for money versus like situation?
Yeah, and I think
I don't know. It's interesting to me.
And the whole thing is kind of interesting to me because I think, and I know it definitely still matters. I mean, I said earlier, having good recruiters on your staff is one of, if not the most important thing, because you need good players. Like at the end of the day, football is a physical sport, and you need specimens to win, like be good. That being said, I do think the days, and they're gone in the pros too, to a certain extent. Like if you think about like the dynasties of old, right? Like 90s Bulls, like 90s Yankees, stuff like that. There was a large segment of those teams that were the same guys from beginning to end, right? Like you had, and even like if you look at the Cowboys or those Niners teams, like I know it changed from Montana to Steve Young, but you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, like if you ask like you or your dad or the Voisins or their dad, there was guys on those 49ers teams who were there from beginning to end. You're not, and like even in college, you like used to look back and be like, oh yeah, like, you know, I remember so and so when they were a freshman, they looked really good, and by their junior year, you know, like Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart are great examples. Lindell White, like Ray Maluga, like you had guys who were on the team from beginning to end, and that's gone completely in college. Like you have no. Like a guy might be on your school, like I mean, even like I'm pretty sure Keywan Lacey is going to follow Kevin Smith to LSU, and he was at Ole Miss for a year, and I love Keywan Lacey. He's been great, but you like kind of how the pros are looking at it too now. You can't pay everybody. Like you can't. I don't think it'd be wise for Ole Miss to pay Keywan Lacey if LSU's like, we'll give him $3 million to match that. Because, and like I said, you see it in the pros too. Like, I'm trying to think, like, even the Chiefs, for example, right? they got rid of oh my god, I can't think of the receiver's name that's on the
Tyreek Hill.
Dolphins. Tyreek Hill. There's different guys who have been on that Chiefs team who are like, oh, they were really good. They aren't there anymore. Like the quarterback position in the NFL, you're gonna pay that guy, right? But like other positions, you're gonna try to, but you're not gonna be able to keep them anymore because and a lot of that has to do with like salary cap and stuff like that being instituted across every sport. But baseball and like even you know on the Warriors, like I don't know how good they are this year, but if they were to win the NBA title, they were to win the finals, you would include that as like a Steph Curry thing, but you'd be like, oh yeah, that team was way different than even that original Warriors team that was Curry, Klay Thompson. Like I don't think Andre Iguodala's on the Warriors anymore. I don't
No,
know for sure. I don't watch it that
he's
like,
not.
and
He's
even
not.
like
I
some
mean,
of the smaller, like I can't remember that big man, the big white dude they had, but
Bogut.
like yeah, like those guys weren't the stars, right? But they were like them. You're like, oh yeah, like when you have kids or whatever, and they're asking you about him, you're like, oh yeah, Andrew Bogut was like he was really good at what he did. So I don't like it will be interesting to see like and Lagway is the one that is the most interesting to me because we've all seen the talent, right? Like you see it and you're like, that guy is phenomenal when he's on. But you also like wonder like when he like what if you pay him an extreme amount of money and he's not good like that's the kind of thing that can get you fired. Paying
No,
him too much
you've
money and
seen it,
he's not good.
and like I said, for every portal success story, I mean, Oklahoma's lucky their defense is good because look, I really like John Mateer. I'm still high on John Mateer. That would have been John Mateer this year. Like if Oklahoma's defense wasn't good. Even as a freshman, I mean, I view it as a non-Michigan fan. You have Michigan fans upset and pissed at Bryce Underwood. It's like we're paying him this much. It's like, well, he's 18 years old. Like in years past, you would have let him do that. You saw Aiden Childs as someone else that Michigan State paid a lot of money to. He's now kind of flaming out, and he's hit the portal. Fans are mad at him. You see it over time. Sometimes these portal QBs, I always say for every portal success story, there's a portal failure story. And I don't know. It's so interesting to see.
And
And
that's
like
why
part of me is like, oh, I do like seeing these guys get paid what they're worth. Like if someone said even like $1 million, be like, holy crap, like $1 million is life changing money. I don't care what Odell Beckham has to say. Like if you get handed $1 million and like handle it well, like most people with a bank account would, I think, because you just get someone to tell you what to do with it. Like that is like life changing money. Like that's serious. Like that is life changing money. But then it's like, you do wonder like with DJ Lagway, it's like you're gonna pay a guy who like is he running from competition? Is he like has he lost his groove? He still is only
well, and
20 or 21 years old. It's like sheesh.
that's why I think it's so important to have and like it's a weird like it has been kind of weird to see and I know you've seen them the like graphics of like oh so and so resign like that's strange to see.
Yeah.
But I think it's just important to have a good GM who is like this is what this guy's worth. We're not paying him $1 more because you can't keep up with the Joneses on, we're going to pay everyone 3 million, like 3 million, like that's not going to continue. And I think you've seen some teams who have been like you have some teams who just don't want to do it at all, which isn't going to work. You have other teams who are just throwing money at nothing, and that's not going to work either. There's a fine middle ground of like sorry to say, it's not and guys were most definitely getting paid under the table even in 2000s, but it's not 2005 anymore where you can be like, "Oh, you know what? No, we're not gonna pay you a dime or help you find endorsements, blah, blah, blah." Like, that's you can't do that anymore because anyone in their right mind would be like, "So you're not gonna" Wyoming or whoever, and I shouldn't pick on Wyoming because I don't think they have like the greatest NIL, but like if Wyoming can't pay their like Josh Allen would not have finished his career at Wyoming if NIL had been a thing. Someone would have, and maybe I'm not even saying that it would have been the right thing for him to do for his future to go from Wyoming to Alabama or wherever because he's turned out just fine. But you're not thinking about 5 years in the future at 18 to 22 years old. You're like, in a lot of the cases, it's people who come from homes that they have no money. So it's easy for someone who's on a double income to be like, oh, it's ridiculous that Josh Allen would leave to make, $2 million at Auburn or whoever. It's not that ridiculous to him because he has no money. So,
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
right. Like, you gotta, I think there is a fine middle ground. And I don't know if that's like
I think
a
it's
salary
contract.
cap.
It's
Yeah. Like,
contract. I think it's
you
like
gotta, and that's what it is. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it was ridiculous to have, I mean, we literally up until and they canceled it for this reason, but for 15 years or whatever it was, had a video game with these guys in it. Literally a video game where they were in the game in every way but using their name and they weren't making a dime off of it. That is literally like one of us being in a like let's say we were in like Die Hard or something like that, being in Die Hard and they go to make a video game and use our image for the video game to put the character that we were in the movie. I mean, like, yeah, you don't get any money from this,
by the way,
even
Die
though
Hard arcade game, great game if you've played it.
it is
You
a
know the
great
one
game
with the it's a great one. Jake's Pizza in
and a great
Sunnyvale. Shout
movie.
out. Yeah, I love it. It is Christmas time. Is it a Christmas movie? Some people say so. Who knows?
My wife has never seen it before, and I was like shocked. I was like, it has a cool, and we're way off topic now. A great hero, but B, you watch that movie and you're like, all right, Alan Rickman and his gang of terrorists are also badass. And like, I would want to be a part of them because
Dude,
they
I
just take over this whole plaza.
also it's so funny that that is obviously if you see, we've gone way off track now. If you are here and you wanted the college football playoff breakdown, like feel free to tune in next week. We are not next week, maybe in 2 weeks when we have our next show. But yeah, the college football playoff breakdown is done. We are now talking Die Hard. So that's shot now in Century City in LA, right? That becomes even funnier if you realize like that building probably now is like has like a Din Tai Fung at like the bottom floor.
No, it's
Maybe a
it's
sweet
that
green
time of the
too.
year, and yes, it is a Christmas movie. But yeah, it's and that's another thing. It's not NIL is not black and white. It's not and we see it from both sides. Like because we both graduated from Boise State, we see the people who just get and they did it the other day, getting mad at Cage Casey for opting out of the bowl game, and I was like, guys, I am sorry, but this if he were to get hurt in that game, that is life altering for him to go and play in that game and get Willis McGahee was going to be a top 5 pick, and he was playing in the national championship and blew out his knee and went in like the 7th round. That is literally taking the ball and 2 or 3 seconds later, you are worth significantly less. I mean, like, it's not exactly apples to apples, but that would be like at 18 years old, Tim Lincecum being like, I'm going to hold this firecracker in my hand. Like,
Yeah,
just because it's funny, like just because it like is entertaining to you guys. So we'll see what ends up happening with it. But there are some teams out there who are doing really well with the NIL, and some are, still trying to figure out how much to pay, like who they should pay, and it's but when you have a sport that makes so much money, it was inevitable. Like you can't have guys playing in these games that millions of people are watching and gambling on and buying their jerseys and stuff like that, and them not getting a college education. I'm sorry. We both have a college education. We both think it's valuable. It's not more valuable than if you told me at hey, at 21 years old, you can either have no degree and $3 million in your bank account or a degree and you're looking for a job. I would take the $3 million.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I'd take that. I mean, you put it in an investment account. You find, yeah, you probably find a job just to make the rent and fund money. It's like $3 million. That's savings for life, pretty much, if you invest it right. So
that being
no,
said, when I hit that 1.5 billion Powerball Saturday night after Ole Miss beats Tulane, I will donate a large amount of money to Boise State if they do two things, and I will get a face to face with Spencer Danielson. One, I want my name somewhere on the field or up in the stadium.
maybe.
Two, I don't care if the person starts, you have to go to the transfer portal for a quarterback and at least look.
And number three, I need you to at least tell Stacy Collins you don't have to fire him, but you have to tell him you are officially under surveillance. We have gone past
Yes.
hot seat. You are now under surveillance.
Well, apparently all the coaches on the staff got job offers from other places.
No.
Bye.
How about four coaches on the staff got offered? Chenander, yeah, I have a hard time to say every single coach got offered. It's definitely not like a Power 5. Maybe like some FCS schools were like, "Hey, do you want to be our offensive coordinator?" A certain wide receiver coach that has had mixed reviews, to say the least, at a certain school in Idaho. Um,
Maybe
but
a certain offensive person who has scored one touchdown in 5 games. But
maybe this
to
certain
the
offensive coordinator went to a certain meme high school in a certain area of a certain state that we also might have lived in and you might also currently live in.
but yeah, everyone watch the games this weekend. We're down to there. I mean, there's other bowl games, but meaningful games, we're down to what we got 4 this weekend, and then there'll be 4, 8. There's like 12 meaningful games left. About not even 12. There's 4 this weekend, and then there'll be 4 more next weekend. So that's 8.
Mm-hmm.
There's 11, I think, right?
This weekend?
No, 11 total,
no
like in the season.
I have no freaking clue.
There's about a dozen. We'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. Enjoy the games, and we will potentially see you in 2 weeks. Not next week. No show next week because of Christmas. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Later, everyone.